Hey everyone, I want to talk to you today about legacy. I know no one wants to think about legacy because that's the thing that you leave behind when you die, right? And we're all going to live forever, so why do we need to talk about legacy? Well, let me tell you, you're not going to live forever. Every one of us is going to die, and every one of us is going to leave a legacy. A good legacy or a bad legacy, but you're going to leave a legacy. You've heard of Cain and Abel, right? All the way back in the book of Genesis in the Bible. But there is something written about them in Hebrews chapter 11, verse 4. Thousands of years later, thousands of years after the death. I want you to get that word there, thousands. Thousands of years after their death, this was written about them. It was by faith that Abel brought a more acceptable offering to God than Cain did. Abel's offering gave evidence that he was a righteous man, and God showed his approval of his gifts. Although Abel is long dead, thousands of years, right? He still speaks to us by his example of faith. That's the kind of legacy I want to leave behind. He was a man of faith, that he believed in God. I want my kids, my grandkids, to know that I believed in God. I don't want someone else to have to be the example to my kids and grandkids of what a godly man or a godly dad or a godly granddad looks like. I want to be that example. That's my position. That's my place, is to be that example and to pass that down. That's the kind of legacy we should all want to leave behind. Exodus chapter 20, verse 6, God says, "But I lavish unfailing love for 1,000 generations on those who love me and obey my commands." 1,000 generations. God lavishes his unfailing love. Now, I've got to tell you, I know I'm a recipient of that. There were people before me that loved God and obeyed his commandments, and I know that I'm receiving God's unfailing love because of that. And maybe you did, or maybe you didn't. Either way, don't you want that for your kids and your grandkids? That's a legacy you can leave of God's unfailing love passing down and down and down, generation upon generation. Those are the kinds of legacies that we ought to be trying to leave behind. And not just for our own kids, because there are some kids that don't have that kind of example in their life. I want to be that for others. I want others to be able to look to me and be able to see that I tried to be that kind of an example. Carey Nieuwhof said this. He said, it's hard to go back to normal when normal disappeared, right? We sometimes, that definition of insanity, where you keep doing the same thing over and over and expect a different result. Well, now normal has not just changed, it's disappeared. Our normal is no longer here. And so, it's time to step up. It's time to step in. It's time to bear down. It's time to do something different. The call to follow Christ has a battle attached to it. This is Ephesians chapter 6, verse 12. "For we are not fighting against flesh and blood enemies, but against evil rulers and authorities of the unseen world, against mighty powers in this dark world, and against evil spirits in the heavenly places." There is a battle attached to the call to follow Christ. Not because God attached this battle. God didn't declare war. Hell has declared war on our families, on our kids, our grandkids, our marriages, our communities, our nations. Hell has declared war. And so if you're following Christ, there's a battle. I would be scared to death. I would be literally scared to death today to attempt to raise kids without regular influence of the church. So let church involvement, regular church involvement, be part of that legacy that you hand down, because your kids and your grandkids are going to need it. I think a lot of people today are looking to find a church that their kids and grandkids will want to be a part of for many years to come. That's not my goal. I don't want to find a church that's like that. I want to build a church that's like that. I want to create a church that's like that. I want to be used by God, and I hope you do too. I want to build that kind of a church that my kids and their kids and their kids and their kids will want to be a part of for the rest of their lives. Let's build that kind of legacy.